This is Newsfeed PM. I'm Michelle Craig. A very good afternoon to you. DA leader John Steenhuisen has hit out at President Cyril Ramaphosa after Ramaphosa fired Andrew Whitfield from his position as Deputy Minister for Trade, Industry and Competition. Take a listen.
Whitfield subsequently wrote to the President to apologise if he had caused offence. Again, he received no response. Then yesterday, months after the incident, and without a further word on it, the President unilaterally removed a DA Deputy Minister without even giving his largest coalition partner an opportunity to discuss it. According to the President's spokesperson, this move is not part of a broader reshuffle. And there can therefore be no other conclusion to be drawn that this is a calculated assault on the second largest party in the governing coalition.
All right, let's unpack the story further and bring in Newzroom Afrika's Ziyanda Ngcobo, who's here with us at the round table, and my colleague Vuyo Mvoko, who's also been tracking the story. Ziyanda, to say that that was a fiery response by John Steenhuisen is an understatement.
Absolutely. And I mean, initially, early on when we were speaking with Vuyo, we thought, okay, maybe this came from within the DA. Why would the president be thinking only of an Andrew Whitfield when you've got a Minister Ngcobo here, a Thembi Simelane there? And clearly, the DA was caught off guard if we look at John Steenhuisen's response. And I want to tell you, read some points that were sent to me by someone who is a strong ally of the president. Clearly, they were also watching that exchange, talking about how this is not about the DA and the relationship with the DA within the GNU, so they're already preempting the fallout there. And secondly, Whitfield defied the president directly, not once but twice without permission. We're told he actually traveled twice to the United States without the president's permission. And on the question of Thembi Simelane, for an example, who was moved, made a lateral movement from the Justice Department to Human Settlements.
A bizarre movement, really.
Really, this was, yes, it's an old matter, but it's a slightly different misdemeanor. And yes, it's an ethics one, but it was taken by the relevant authority at the time. Now, I mean, South Africans will have lots to say about that, given we have a new chewing minister of higher education who has entangled herself, I mean, to quote the words of Somadoda Figeni, self-mutilating herself into a corner unprovoked. That's how you could describe Ngcobo in recent times. And certainly the DA feeling isolated there. And on a day where, the Division of Revenue is meant to be voted on, earlier on when we'd heard that there's something coming, we thought it was going to be a wholesale cabinet reshuffle. I was told explicitly that anything that comes is likely to come after the Division of Revenue bill, clearly, obviously preempting that there would be a reaction like this.
And that's what you said, Vuyo. The part of the issue that is so hard to understand is that a decision like this would be announced on a day like today with the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, which is on its third strike in Parliament.
Where was the urgency? I mean, where does the urgency come from?
Yeah.
Why did it have to be part of today's cabinet statement? And I mean, say what you will, about it's not only the DA that is feeling, the way many people feel. There's just something bizarre. I can't remember the word you used.
Weird.
Weird. About this, about this whole thing. What was so pressing?
Yeah.
You see, this is the other thing, because what the GNU has done over the past year has been, among other things, to elevate deputy ministers and give them a status that in reality they actually do not have.
Yeah.
Because, except for the deputy minister of finance, I don't know of any other deputy minister who has a real job. Right?
Yep.
They get given stuff by the minister who has all the executive power. Hence, you won't find a deputy minister acting for a minister, for example. But the whole GNU thing has made people feel that even deputy ministers are, get elevated and all, which is fine. That's not a problem. But on days like these, this is where you see the fault line, but also hopefully someone's going to look back and say how we've handled this thing of the GNU, how we've, perhaps not by design, elevated, these people and accorded them a status that in reality they do not have, is probably something we need to revise. But one other thing I want to say, on account of John Steenhuisen, John Steenhuisen clearly disputes what a person is. I don't know if it was the second time around, but John Steenhuisen says it in front of Parliament.
That the president was tardy.
The president is the one who was tardy.
Right. Yeah.
Permission was sought. He didn't reply, and this Andrew Whitfield then decided or erred on the side of doing his job, because he felt the trip was about him doing his job.
Right.
And look, hopefully someone's going to punch holes in that if indeed that is not the case.
Look, the holes are there. The holes are everywhere in the argument. If you want to if we want to nitpick about things that ministers, that deputy ministers, even deputy presidents might be doing that might not be in the interest of South Africans, we have our pick. Paul Mashatile in March was in Japan with his wife to the tune of 2.3 million rand.
Yeah.
The Eastern Cape disaster from this month is just one way to look at a 900,000 rand hotel stay and say that that is absurd in a country that is in a state that we are in at the moment. So again, why Andrew Whitfield?
Why Andrew Whitfield, but also interesting to hear John Steenhuisen mentioning the National Lotteries Commission, which is very much in the news cycle, talking about how Andrew Whitfield was asking questions about the issuing of that National Lotteries license. And I want to go back to the point of the Division of Revenue Bill, because it actually legally binds the government to allocated financial distributions. Now, we've seen how the DA has fought many issues from that, but all the way, to the first budget 1.0. So if we go to a vote this afternoon, as we anticipate, and something changes, because we still don't know what that 48 hours or else really means, we could still be finding ourselves without a budget and government spending being hampered. And issues like the disaster that you've been mentioned, it makes it difficult to be able to deal with such issues. But also, again, in the government of national unity, it goes back to what the DA has been saying, that the ANC still acts as if it has a hegemony in government. They don't consult. They come and they tell us what to do. And to really, how does the president then explain this, him being defied, when we could also, like you said, nitpick on how we define being defied by a minister or a deputy minister? It's still weird, as I said to you earlier, that the president would be almost thinking of one deputy minister out of the 43 deputy ministers that we have and the ministers in your cabinet. It just feels like there's just something so off here.
Look, with Tembi Simelane, during her time as Justice Minister, she had numerous opportunities to meet with or write to the president to explain the cloud of corruption that was hanging over her. In a country like ours that is being eaten alive by corruption, that was very interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
That even with a whiff of corruption, you might still have a chance not only to speak to the president and plead your case, but to be moved to another portfolio. So when the DA talks about, as you said, the lotteries issues, Ziyanda, Andrew Whitfield was asking uncomfortable questions about the Lotto Tenders Award. DA cabinet members fired for fighting corruption, but those implicated in corruption are safe. Again, difficult to argue with.
It's difficult to argue. With that. We know, we've been doing these, stories. People, it's gone to a point of not giving satisfactory answers, to not giving answers at all, as is the case of the Minister of Higher Education, which puts the ANC in particular, on the back foot, and then right in the middle of that, you take a decision that cannot be rationally explained, as this one.
Yes,
you're painting yourself, into a corner.
So, what does the statement of intent say about these kinds of issues between the government of national unity?
Well, this is what Helen Zille has been talking about, the whole time, and hence the agreement, last time after when the budget could not be passed, that perhaps it's a time for a reset.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the reset was going to work for everyone, because there's been a push within the ANC, right, to actually kick the DA out of the GNU. So a reset would have meant, that you then come down, you become more civilly with, the DA, accept that our future is, entails or includes both of us and everyone else, of course, but we can't do anything without the other. And a lot of ANC MPs and leaders didn't take kindly to that, because they were already on a roll, on a mission to actually make sure that that initiative that ensured that those 10 other parties then got to join the ANC was about that. It was driving this, ensuring that actually we can do this without the DA. But then the reset button that was pressed put a temper on all of that.
And that missed opportunity of a special NEC, you remember after Budget 2.0 when it looked like Action SA and BOSA would be coming into the fold, because they are the ones that assisted to get Budget 2.0 over the threshold, that would have been the moment. And that Monday there was supposed to be a special NEC, but it was postponed, and coincidentally, or the timing of it came when a business had apparently written a letter to the president to express their concern about the possibility and the implications of the Democratic Alliance, leaving the government of national unity. And this is something that the ANC has felt like this is like the boogeyman that continuously gets being, thrown at them every time there's a fallout between the ANC and DA. Like, no, you can't break up. The DA has to be in this. They're stuck. It's a marriage of inconvenience in a way.
Guess what will happen next, given what happened yesterday in Johannesburg?
Yes.
The Action SA speaker was kicked out. What do you think? How do you think the Action SA will approach this issue if tomorrow the ANC would want their vote, like they did the last time?
What do we think this means within the next 48 hours? We will find out. John Steenhuisen's statement in Parliament.
It means actually engaging with the president, who we understand is still in Cape Town. It means perhaps actually them threatening the president with something. We've seen that's how the DA has dealt with it. But also it means the DA also going back to the drawing board. Although every time they make these threats, it's almost like they make a lot of threats and then they almost pull back. Yeah, they just cry wolf and then they pull back. How the president will take that, because he is, empowered to do so as per the Constitution. It's prerogative.
I saw at the pleasure, yes,
of the president.
Yes.
I mean, really, I don't see.
We heard that with Jacob Zuma on many a late night in his tenure.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, it's if there's a reset button that today, if it hasn't, is most likely to press.
Might this be the end?
It could well be. The stakes are high for a lot of people. John Steenhuisen has a big fight in his hands, right, to remain the leader of the Democratic Alliance. Right? Helen Zille remains a very powerful figure within the Democratic Alliance. And for those ambitious enough or keen to see the back of John Steenhuisen, she's got the weaponry. In my reading, even that stance, some minutes ago or so, I would dare say that it had a lot with John Steenhuisen ensuring that he doesn't lose more people within the DA than he actually has now. Because remember, after the problems with the budget, the very first one, the president had to call him in, mollycoddle him, get him to understand, win some, lose some, get to understand, you have a stake in this, we're in this together, and we had to, and he listened a lot to that. I don't know if his attitude would be the same if the president was to say this evening, let's have a meeting.
Is this a decision
because
the president...
he has a fight of his life in his own hands.
His own fight for his life.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, I mean, the DA has cried wolf many times. And the other school of thought could be, well, the DA can't afford to not be in government so close to local government elections. You do also, I mean, visibility politics in South Africa is still very important. You have to be seen to be doing something, even though sometimes we know that's not the case, but you have to be seen to be doing something. Hence, you have an Asipi Moya in Tshwane where, Action SA is trying to milk that and try to portray themselves in a particular fashion. And already, I guess, to your point, the DA had already felt hard done by in terms of the ministries and the positions that they got when the president announced his government of national unity. So I suppose that's where the rage from John Steenhuisen comes from. But I don't see them leaving the government of national unity because, I mean, you still have your deputy.
Once you have blue lights, it's difficult to go back.
I mean, there's
but
that.
I mean, look,
you have a deputy finance minister, Ashir Sarupin.
Yeah.
You have enough proximity to be able to agitate within the government, which is what the basic education minister, and this is why I'm saying this afternoon's vote will be very interesting. Maybe their fight will be to say we are not getting given enough money now, to be able to run our ministries, and that will be a new fight that the DA could be taking up using this division of revenue bill. I wonder how Ngcobo feels this afternoon.
I wonder though, I mean, what if they take the stance that Action SA took yesterday? Was to say they went in there saying, we don't want Dada Morera because we believe he's bad for Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Right? We would support someone else And then I said, no, it's Dada or no one. Then they said, okay, we can lose the position of speaker then. We're going to abstain. What if the Democratic Alliance was to adopt a similar stance, and say, you know what, we get it, that the blue lights and being in government puts us in good stead. However, we are not prepared. We can only go this far and no further. If it means losing the positions, losing the blue lights and everything that goes with that, that's okay. After all, we've come this far without the blue lights, without the ministries or deputy ministries. So as is.
I mean, let's see what happens after the FedEx meeting.
So that's
where we have
this
to turn our
afternoon.
attention to.
But John Steenhuisen is obviously still in Parliament. Just to remind our viewers who are just tuning in now at almost 4:20, shall we take a quick listen again to what the DA leader, John Steenhuisen, had to say in Parliament earlier?
Whitfield subsequently wrote to the president to apologize if he had caused offence. Again, he received no response. Then yesterday, months after the incident, and without a further word on it, the president unilaterally removed a DA deputy minister without even giving his largest coalition partner an opportunity to discuss it.
All right, plenty more still ahead from you. John Steenhuisen says the next 48 hours are incredibly important. We still don't know exactly what that means, but in studio with us, my colleagues Ziyanda and Ngcobo and Vuyo. We'll be back in just a moment.